presenters tend to read the slides. Well, I'm guessing you're all pretty clever and you don't want me to read the slides. But here are two questions I want you to ask yourself. The whole of my theme today is about you creating visibility for yourself and about being proactive. That is where we're going throughout. So, fortunately for me, when the word networking comes up, it seems to scare people something terrible. Well, let's get the nonsense out of the way right from the beginning. My audience, whether you like it or not, me, you, and everybody in the world, we network from about the age of 2 years old. Networking, taking it down to its absolute basics, is simply talking, or as it says there, communicating. You all network. Now, I'm pretty confident, and please forgive me for broad brush, but I'm guessing scientists, people like your good selves, would not, as a general class, be classed as extroverts. And you know what? You don't need to be an extrovert to be a good networker. In fact, people who consider themselves the quieter, shyer person, some people call them the introvert, can make the best networkers, which I'm going to talk to you about now. So, what I've been doing? I've been working in August for 57 years, 57 years, but nobody on this course is even half that age. So for 36 of them, I trained as an accountant, and then, as it says there, I show people how to become effective and confident networkers. And just 2 days ago, no, yesterday even, it was my 21st birthday. And you know what? I mentioned this on Facebook and on LinkedIn. I've had thousands of congratulations. It was like my real personal birthday. It wasn't my real personal birthday. It was my business birthday. That's it. 2 jobs. And there's something I need to say to you. I've been listening carefully to Roger, listening carefully to Lana. And once they started to talk technical, it went right over my head. And I reckon even if I was reasonably clever, which I'm not, I would never have understood it. You see, I left school at 16. Mr. Hanforth, the headmaster at Bury Grammar School, Bury is a town in North Manchester, said to me, Kintish, you're not very clever, are you? I think you ought to go and get a job. Go and be an accountant, he said. I don't know what career advice you've ever been given, but that was the career advice I was given, and that was it. I left school on the 4th of September 1964, and a week later I started to train as an accountant. And then 36 years later, an opportunity arose, and all I've been doing, as it shows there, showing people how to network. Now, I don't know whether any of you know what a standard operating procedure is. Well, I've done my research and that's what it is. I'm guessing if you work in industry or engineering, you all know about standard operating procedures. So why am I talking about that relative to networking? Well, I have got a standard operating procedure for you all. Watch carefully. It's an 8-step process. What the plan is in the next 50 minutes is to take you through this process to help you get that dream job that you're looking for. I know it says business opportunities, but your career is your business. Business is your career. So let's start. Invitations. Are you, do you belong to any groups? You should belong to groups if you can. I'm sure a lot of you are working very hard for your PhDs, etc. but try and find some time to join some groups relative to, excuse me, relative to what you do. You may hear me say this later, but I'm going to say it now. Strategy for success is visibility. How visible are you? Try and go to things. We are beginning slowly to be able to go to group events. I went to my first physical networking event last week. It was heaven for me because I absolutely love meeting people and going to networking events. And if there are events that are beginning to open up rather than online events, please go to them, go and meet people. Or try and have what I call a virtual coffee. At the end of the day, the best way to network is on a one-to-one basis. Bearing in mind what this conference is called, Careers in Quantum, let's just focus on your career. I think there are 4 ways to get a job. One is to reply to an advert. One is to go to an agency. One is to go to a job site on the internet. Sorry. And the 4th one is to network. And at the end of the day, the best way for you to get a job is to meet somebody who will introduce you to their connection. There cannot be a better way. It's safer for you and it's safer for them. In Lana's talk, she talked about you should write to Phasecraft. Do better than that. Have a chat with Lana and see if she can introduce you to somebody at Phasecraft. Isn't that a better way of doing things? Remember this for the rest of your lives. There's only 2 important people in business: people you know and people you want to know. And the best way to get people that you want to know is to ask the people you know. Remember that. There cannot be a better way of at least getting the interview. I'm going to talk to you for a few moments about LinkedIn. I really think you need to be on LinkedIn. I've checked up. There's a lot of people on LinkedIn. Ben Burridge is on LinkedIn. I've just checked him out. Ben Burridge and I don't know each other. But Ben and I have got a common link in Andy Collins. I did a presentation to Cyber ASAP last July. And Andy and I linked in, and I've just looked at his profile and I noticed that he's linked to Ben. So if I hadn't met Ben, but I wanted to meet him, I wouldn't go directly cold to Ben. I'd say, Andy, do you remember when I presented to you last year and you said some nice things about my talk? I see you're connected to Ben Burridge. Can you introduce me, Andy, to him, please? If you're going to start inviting people to LinkedIn, I bet, like me, you get lots of invitations from people and they just send you that default, can we link in? And you don't know who they are and you don't know what they want. So if you are going to meet people, you want to link in with people through LinkedIn, send them something like that. And if they accept your invitation, oh no, before we talk about that, when I say to people, if you're going to invite me, please send me a personal invitation, and they don't, and I see them later, I say to them, why didn't you send me a personal invitation? They said, well, you can't send personal invitations using your iPhone. Well, you can. Let me show you. If I decide to connect with this guy, who I don't know, by the way, William Zakiti, I just plucked him out of the air. Don't press the connect button because that goes directly through to William without a personal friendly note. Don't press the connect button, press the more button. And when you press the more button, up comes a menu, and fourth one down, you can personalize the invitation. So always, if you're going to invite people to connect with you on LinkedIn, personal invitation only. And if they accept your invitation, don't leave it there. Let's start to build on that connection. Now, believe it or not, guys, we're in the same business. We are in the advice giving business. Your career is going to be about your knowledge, your experience, and your expertise as you move forward, as is mine. Learn this mantra of mine, everyone. The more you tell, the more you sell. In Lana's talk, she talked about writing papers. Start to write. I know you're all having to write big papers for your thesis, but maybe you can take little sections of it, no more than 100, 150 words, and post them on LinkedIn. Are you aware there's 600 million people on LinkedIn? Yes, I know that most of them aren't very active on it, but let's say 1%'s active on it. So that's 6 million people. And there'll be a lot of them in your industry. And if they start to read something valuable that you've written, who knows, they might get in touch with you. And that's a way of building trust. Doesn't need to be more than 100, 150 words, as I say. Make sure you've got a very good headline, something the way they go, oh, that sounds interesting. And always put an image in. If you want to know more about LinkedIn and profiles, check my profile out. See all the stuff I've been writing over the last few years, just to give you a flavor of what it's all about. So when someone accepts your invitation, send them a message. When you accept their invitation, if somebody invites you, do the same thing. So that's about invitations. Well, of course, once you invite people, whether it's physical or whether it's online, we're going to meet people. And my strong advice to my clients is that if you're going to be looking for a job next year, go back through your old connections, go back through your level 1 contacts on LinkedIn. Hopefully you are on LinkedIn. And get in touch, just see how they're getting on. Share some of your knowledge. I don't know whether you know about Google Alerts. Check out Google Alerts. If you're looking to get into a particular company, set up a Google Alert for that company. And every time that company, not every time, but very often when there is something about that company, you'll get an email from them. And that is a way of building up your knowledge. What did Roger say? Understand their business model. The more you know about them, the more you can share the fact that you have checked them out and that you've done your research, the better chance you've got, if you get that interview, of getting that dream job, which is what we're all about. Okay, let's get to the nub of this, building relationships. Ladies and gentlemen, networking is simply building relationships. Every relationship that you have ever built in your life that you value, whether it's a social or a business relationship, has got to have 3 key steps. The first step in the building of a relationship is to get to know people. The more people you know, the more chance you have of getting a job. The next step for me is the most important step of all. Are you a likable person? Do people like you? I'm guessing, like most industries, there is competition. And please don't ever forget this. Whether you're going into the academic side, whether you're going into the commercial side, at the end of the day, people buy people. Horrible cliche, isn't it? But that's true. You think about people that you don't like. People that you don't like, you don't have anything to do with them. You don't want to hear from them. But when you do like them, you'll forgive some of the things that they might do. So remember this. What do you have to do to get people to like us? And the third step in building relationships is trust. Know, like, and trust. Every single relationship has got to go through those 3 key steps. Let me just go back a moment. How do we get people to like us? About being friendly, courteous, polite, respectful. I may be wrong, but I don't think I am. At the end of the day, I don't care what degrees you've got, what letters you've got behind your name, what certificates you've got on your wall. On that wall over there is my certificate from 50 years ago saying I'm a chartered accountant. Great. But I have to tell you this. In my accountancy days, I got more clients than anybody else. I wasn't the cleverest by far. When it was clever stuff in my accountancy firm, I had to ask my my partners how to deal with things. By the way, I'm beginning to get some invitations on LinkedIn. Do not invite me to LinkedIn until the end. Please do not invite me to LinkedIn. If you are going to invite me to LinkedIn, make sure you send me a personal invitation. For me, the best way to get people to like us is that there. And what we have here is a series of questions, seeing how we can help other people. Now, you may not be in a position in your careers to be able to help people a lot, but ensure you have that mindset. But let's now help you. Please help me. Learn not to be afraid to ask people for help. Learn those beautiful 5 words. Who do you know who? Or please can you help me? Life's difficult as it is without help. Do not ever hesitate about asking for help. I work with some enormous companies over the years. Why? Because I've met somebody at the company and they've introduced me to the senior decision makers. At the end of the day, what's the worst that can happen if you ask people for help? They'll just say no. So what I want you to do is shrug and move on. That one at the bottom, if you were me, how would you? So you have a word with Lana. If I don't know whether Lana's on this call, but she'll perhaps be very upset with me. But let's say you wanted to get into phasecraft. Lana, please can you help me? If you were me, how would you go about getting an internship with phasecraft? She might be able to introduce you to somebody that she knows who likes her and who trusts her. Let me give you a bit of science, scientists. I don't know whether you've heard that in our brain there is some chemical called dopamine. Dopamine is a chemical that is created that gives us great pleasure. And I know that if somebody asks me for help and I'm able to help them, I get a lot of self-satisfaction. It is rumored that the dopamine is created in my brain. I'm thinking, oh, I feel great. And I feel great because I've been able to help somebody. So if you want to make people feel great, ask them to help you. Don't be afraid, because when people know you, like you, and trust you, they will do their damnedest to help you. And if I haven't yet convinced you, buy that book. My friend Andy Laporta wrote it. He got into a lot of bother and he didn't ask people for help. And eventually he realized by asking people for help, it changed his whole life. So he had to write a book about it. Why seeking support is your greatest strength. Just for the record, I don't get any commission. I recommend his book because I know him, like him, and trust him. And I've read the book, and it's the most valuable book around for those people who are embarrassed or hesitate asking for help. I want you to build a lifelong reputation for being trustworthy. And it's so easy. It's about being reliable. It's as simple as that. When I used to have staff in my accountancy office, and when I used to have staff in my Kintish networking skills business, I said to them, when you work with Will Kintish, you only have 2 rules to follow. You can make mistakes. We're all human. We all make mistakes. But you mustn't break these rules. That's rule 1. And that's rule 2. Everybody got it? Think about it. Think about it when people let you down. That wasn't very good. Can I trust them? Build that reputation. Always. And if you promise to do something on a Wednesday and you know on the Monday or Tuesday you're not going to do it, maybe you're waiting for a third party for something, get in touch with the person you promised. Say, look, I promised you for Wednesday, but I'm still waiting to get some information to send you the final report or the final paper. It'll now be Friday. I'm going back to LinkedIn. This is about getting people to know you. Build a profile. Your profile, as it says, is your personal website. Look around at other people's profiles and get some good ideas. I did training in LinkedIn for 5 years. Don't do it now very much. But type in LinkedIn trainer and look at their profiles. Hopefully they've got really good profiles. Put that in. We've talked about invitations. I've talked to you about that. That is another way of building trust, everybody, sharing your knowledge. I mentioned on LinkedIn, I've been in business for 21 years. I've had 9,000 views. I've had 125 likes and 55 comments. That raises my visibility. Will it get me more business? I don't know, but it reminds people I'm alive and well and kicking, because at my age, some people aren't sure whether I am alive. I've been working for so long. Well, I'm hoping we can go back to that, but at the moment we can't. So let me share the next few minutes with you about creating great impressions looking through the camera. But just before I do, when people are going to start asking you, what do you do? Try and make it, unless they're working in the quantum world, don't get too scientific. So for example, when people ask me what I do, I tell them that. And sometimes if they look as though they're interested, I tell them that. What do you do? Well, I've done some research, guys. Ha! That might as well be in a foreign language. I don't understand it. So when people ask you what you do, please make it a bit more simple than that. Unless you know, try and find out what they do first. So if they're in the same field as you, then you can, oh, I've lost the word. You can jargon away in your language. But if they're business people, and of course you're going to meet lots of business people, and you're not sure whether they understand you, please, whatever you do, without patronizing them, make it simple. By the way, I've got this foible about the word help. I help my clients too. What do you guys do? Do you increase or decrease or improve or advise? Anyway, think about that when people ask you what you do. There's a section missed out here. It's not a slide, but I'm just going to talk to you for a few moments about first impressions through the camera. Please, I'm doing my best, but it's very hard. Do your best that when you are talking, you are looking in the camera. Do not look down. It's not easy. Get yourself a little piece of paper and put it next to the camera which says, look at me. Or find a picture of somebody you love or somebody you admire and put a picture of them against the camera so you're looking at that all the time and not looking down. Make sure you're dressed appropriately. If it's a business conversation, make sure you've got some decent lighting. Never ever sit with the light behind you. I'm in my studio down on the 3rd floor of my house. I live in a townhouse when there's no window down here, so I have a green screen behind me. That obviously is a virtual background. I have a light there, and a light in front of me. But if possible, don't try. Make sure that you are facing the window so you've got natural light coming in. Make sure you've got the right sound as well. You have to be as professional and give the right impression through the Zoom as you would do in the room. What else can I tell you about it? If you haven't got a virtual background, just check your background first. Make sure it looks tidy and professional. Okay. Let's move into part 4, step 4. When you went to school, or in fact, some of you are in school, but when you went to school, you're judged on the quality of your answers. In the world I'm talking to you about, you're judged on the quality of your questions. When you start asking people questions, obviously you've got to listen for the answer, but more importantly than that, please look at the person when they're answering. We can all lie with our words, but we can't all lie with our tone of voice and our body language. So if Ben says to me, hey, Will, how's your business been? And I go, yeah, do you know what, Ben? We're having a good year, thanks, yeah. And I don't look at him, maybe I'm not telling the truth. So if you're going to start asking questions and you want the truthful answer, look at people carefully. I hope you all know about open and closed questions. Try and frame most of your questions with one of those 7 words, rather than are you, do you, can you, where they can just say yes or no. By the way, high and low reactors. Some people want to share lots with you. They're called the high reactor. Some people don't want to tell you anything. They're called the low reactor. And again, watching their body language, even through the screen, you can probably tell what sort of a person they are. Why have I highlighted the word why? I don't like the word why. Why is a very challenging word. Why have you done that? Challenging. Reframe it. What's the reason you did that? A bit softer. Avoid interrupting, answering in advance, and hijacking. Hijacking, what does that mean? So if I say to Ben, Ben, what was the last holiday you went on? And he said to me, oh, Will, I went to Rome. I said, you went to Rome, Ben? I went to Rome. We saw the Colosseum and we saw the Spanish Steps. It was fantastic. The weather was gorgeous. I've hijacked Ben's conversation. So if I say to Ben, what was your last holiday? And he said, oh, well, I went to Rome, Will. I said, oh, where did you go? And I'd ask him about that. And then I'd share my experiences with him. Now, let me introduce you to your lifelong networking friend. This is Ben. Say, hi, Ben. Hi, everyone. Sorry, we can't see you. There's 115 people there, Ben. Look, you see 115 people. We can't see any of them. I bet you're all thinking, well, Kintish is losing it. Well, he is not. I know for a fact that people do not ask enough questions because they're nervous of hearing something that they don't understand. So they back out, they go quiet, they feel vulnerable. Well, again, let me bring Ted back on stage. There he is. When you're involved in conversations with people and you don't fully understand what's going on, get stuck in, not back out. Are you ready for Ted? There it is. I don't get that. So if I were talking to you guys who are scientific, I'd say, tell me a bit more about that quantum. Can you explain to me exactly what you do? Can you describe to me what benefits people will get from your knowledge? I don't ever want you to walk away from a conversation thinking, do you know what? I wish I'd asked that. Look at this. Fear is temporary, regret is permanent. There is only one stupid question. You ready for this? It's the one that's in your mind that doesn't come out of your mouth. What's the worst they can say? And if you think you ought to know it, say, look, perhaps I ought to know this, but please, can you tell me? Or I might be being stupid. Can you explain to me in a little more detail? And do you know what? People will respect you for that. Because what are you doing? You're saying you know more about this than me. My goodness, they'll get to like you that way, won't they? There are 4 areas of questions. Icebreaker questions. Once you start going back to conferences, go up to somebody at an event and never say to them, hello there, what do you do? Always start off with something simple. Hello there, where have you traveled from today? Hello there, what made you come to this conference? Hello there, isn't this a magnificent building? Have you been here before? Nice, easy. Do you know what this is? Anybody see that? It's a Pritt stick. What do Pritt sticks do? They glue things together. So where am I going with this? It's the small talk at the initial stages of a relationship that glues the relationship together. Now, as scientists, and again, please don't shout at me for generalizing, but a lot of scientists do not like the small talk. But that is what builds the relationship. So let me quickly go through this image. What have we got there? So that, imagine that's you. This is a story, by the way. Imagine that's you and you get out of your car. The car is the symbol for how was your journey today? Or if you're doing it on Zoom, where are you actually based? Where am I speaking to you at? Or if you see something interesting behind them, you might see a drum kit. Oh, do you play the drums? So the car is your sort of icebreaker. We look across the road at your neighbour's house. The house represents questions like, oh, where do you live? Have you always lived there? Just for the record, I've lived in Manchester all my life. I'm actually hoping to move to London in the next few months, but at the moment I live in Manchester. If anybody comes to Manchester with a London accent or an accent that is obviously not from Manchester, I say, you weren't born and bred here. Do you live here in Manchester now, or are you traveling through? Balanced on the top of our neighbour's house, we see a business card. Obviously questions about business. I'll talk about it in a moment. Flying through the business card is an aeroplane. Anybody remember aeroplanes? I bet not many of you have been on one of those for a few months. The aeroplane, questions about people's holidays, questions about people's travel. The one big change for me, everybody, since COVID arrived was for the last 20 odd years, or the last 20 years, I've traveled the length and breadth of not just Britain, but Europe, going to tens and tens of universities, going to big accountancy firms, banks, conferences, academic conferences, talking about one thing. Guess what? You realize that. And since COVID arrived, I'm stuck here in my study presenting to you nice people. On the end of the wings, we have tennis rackets. Obviously, clever people, tennis rackets. Ask people about what they do in their spare time. When you don't come to conferences, what do you do? What's your interests, your hobbies? What do you do outside work? We look in the cockpit on the pilot's seat, we see an open green newspaper, current events. Can I respectfully suggest you never initiate a conversation about politics or religion? Never. And finally, if we look carefully above the tennis rackets, we see our neighbour's family. Family is a fabulous topic, but can I give you a friendly warning? Never, if you don't want to upset or embarrass people, a bad way of building relationships. When you don't want to upset or embarrass people, never ask these two questions. Are you married and do you have children? Because when you ask the wrong person, the wrong question on the wrong day, think about it, it can really, really upset people. But I can find out about anybody by asking them questions using the tennis racket and the aeroplane symbols. So when you're not working, what do you do in your spare time? If they're married and they've got children, they'll tell you, oh, we do this, or I have to spend half my time taking my kids around. Or what was the last holiday you went on? Or we went to Disney World. Oh, how many of you went? Oh, I went with my husband, wife, partner, took the 3 kids. So don't walk out of here today thinking family is a bad topic. It's not, it's a great topic. But be careful in the way in which you ask questions. Talking of family, that's Mrs. Kintish in the bottom left-hand corner. We've also been married for 50 years. My 3 children, Michael's a songwriter and composer. Check him out, Mike Kintish, songwriter, composer, record producer. Had a hit a few years ago called 15 Minutes he had a band then called the Yeahus, Y-E-A-H-Y-O-U-S, the Yeahus. Joanne, my beautiful daughter, my eldest, she's a math teacher at a very nice girls' school in northwest London. And finally, the one with the hair and the beard, and that's not me, by the way, is Anthony. He's a property developer in London. If you know anybody who wants to buy a 2-bedroom apartment in Hendon Lane, London, he's got some for sale. I couldn't afford one. Maybe some people you know can. That's my family. And they kindly produce those beautiful 7 grandchildren for us. If I had some time, I'd tell you all about them, but I haven't. So let's move on. Let's talk about business questions. Let me repeat what Roger McKinley said. Understand their business model and understand how you can add value. So make sure that you ask some great questions. By the way, at the end of this talk today, I'm going to give you a link to my website. It's a private link. It's not open to everybody. What I'm going to do is ask you to answer 3 questions. That's all. I promise I'm never, ever going to email you again, unless you want me to. I'm going to ask you 3 questions, my little questionnaire at the end. And if you answer them, you'll immediately get all the questions about asking about their present situation, asking about their past, asking about their future. At the end of the day, that's how you're going to understand their business. Make sure you ask people what their role is. If they say, I work at Siemens, for example, what's your role there? Ask people questions the size of the company. Here's a stupid question. How big's the company? What a stupid question. Ask questions like, how many people work at your company? That gives you a good indication of the size and scale of a company. Questions about the past. What made you become a scientist? What made you become an engineer? How long has the company been going? Questions about the future. So where do you see the company going in the next couple of years? Always put a time scale on your questioning. By the way, all you're getting from me today is 50 minutes. There's tons of extra stuff that I'm going to send you if you fill out my questionnaire telling me what you thought about the course. And even if you thought my hour was rubbish, I'll still send you everything that I think you're going to need. Now, if I go back, and I can't go back now, but if I go back to the standard operating procedure, number 6 is the aha moment. The aha moment, everybody, is when somebody says something to you and your mind goes, aha, that's interesting. By the way, let me just tell you about this. If I meet people at an event and I ask them 3 or 4 questions and they don't ask me anything, they're saying to me, Will, I'm not interested in you. This is what else they're saying to me. Remember Ted. Don't forget Ted, everybody. We're talking about networking on this talk today. The number 1 core skill you need is to ask great questions. You need to prepare and plan great questions, whether you're networking on the Zoom or in the room. Please remember that. Sorry. So 5 and 6, spotting needs. If they say something to you where you think, oh, this is worth following up, we call it the aha moment. My slides have gone a bit out of sync, I think. The aha moment, here it is. So when somebody says something like that, I want you to follow up. Why do I want you to follow up? I want you to follow up with an old-fashioned phone call. And what's the difference between following up in a professional manner and annoying people? Well, I'm going to tell you now. But do remember this for the rest of your life. If you want something, the only way you're going to get a benefit, the fortune is in the follow-up. Always ask permission. So if I meet somebody, I'll say, is it at an event? And they say an aha moment. They say, I don't know, let's say it's a firm of accountants. And they say to me, do you know what, Will? We've got a team of young accountants who need some help. I'll say, is it okay if I give you a call in the next few days to discuss it further, continue our conversation? I mean, let's give a perfect example. Last night, a big firm of accountants wrote to me, said, Will, we're doing a TNA. For those of you, see, I can talk jargon just like you. A TNA is a training needs analysis. So things are beginning slowly to get back to normal. They're doing, and they want some prices and a proposal for some training this year for their accountants. So I've sent it to them. And at the end of it, I said, I hope it's okay, but if I've not heard from you by the end of June, I will come back and see if you're still interested. And if I then don't hear from them, I'll send them a second email and a third email. But when I get to the third email, I'll say, please give me guidance. You asked me for a proposal. However, if you change your mind, let me know and I won't bother you any further. Everybody got it?
Hi, Will. Just to say, you've just got just under 5 minutes remaining.
That's all I need, Ben. Thank you.
Thank you.
So please, everyone, looking for a job, you're in big competition. You need to raise your visibility. You need to be proactive. Do not give up. I want you to pick up the phone. That's the old-fashioned way. That's the modern way. Everybody got it? Pick up the phone if you meet somebody somewhere, Zoom or room. Don't worry about upsetting people. Remember this: if you haven't got a job, that is the amount of salary you're earning. The answer is 0. So as it says at the bottom there, it can't get any worse. Do not give up too soon. Remember this: you're going to be offering that, and that. Remember this. And let me bring this to an end slowly. You're giving them a gift. You are all clever people. You are going to add value to their business. So you are giving them a gift. You're all kind people, aren't you? Do not give up too soon, but make sure you ask for guidance. And finally, you're going to meet people. So my key messages: I left accountancy because of that man there, Dale Carnegie. He wrote the first book on networking. There's no mention of it, but that's what networking is. He wrote the book in 1936. He came out with some timeless quotes. And as we slowly come to an end of this talk, here's one of them. If you want to be perceived as the most interesting person, you have to be interested, and it's all about asking questions. I'd love you to invite me to LinkedIn. When you send me a personal invitation, I will write back and say thank you, and I will send you my pocketbook, my 28-page pocketbook on how to work a room, which we haven't had time for today. I also have a book. Look, published book. You probably haven't got time to read it, but maybe you will. Buy it on Kindle. So I have no qualms about hesitations or doubts about asking people to help me. Who else can you introduce me to? So, as we're coming to an end and handing back to Ben, ask yourself those questions. By the way, many years ago, somebody said, I've been Kintish. I said, what do you mean? They said, well, I've been on your course. So my 100 people today, you've all been Kintished. So as I hand back to Ben, here's the question for you. And here is my gift that I'm going to put in the chat box. I don't know whether I can. Ben, can you do that?
Yeah, I can. I'll put that in your Slack channel if you like.
Yes, if you click on that, everybody, you'll answer 3 questions and you'll immediately get everything I've been telling you with lots more detail. And that's it. What actions are you going to take as a result of my talk today? Thanks, Ben. Back to you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Will. I've just put that in your Slack channel, so hopefully people will be able to find that. And thank you for an extremely engaging talk today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. I think we've got one question in the Q&A if you wanted to field that. Which we've got from Samir, and it says, just a short clarification related to know, like, trust. I would assume that there is no dependency between know, like, and trust. Basically, he trusts some people that he's never met. So his question would be, if you could provide any suggestion for when like fails, how we can still maintain trust.
I always think, Samir, that, I mean, ironically enough, I had an accountancy partner called Elliot, who was a miserable devil. He never smiled. He was always serious. I didn't like him very much, but I trusted him. So perhaps that's the answer. I trusted him implicitly. In fact, I'm always recommending him because he's very trustworthy. But it's not hard to get people to like you. Just be interested in them. It's as simple as that.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Will. And with that, I think that is the end of our first session. So thank you very much for rounding us off so nicely, Will. And it's been a pleasure to have you.
And perhaps we'll link in then.
Definitely, I'll send you a personal invite.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much.